Level 1. The Grievance. You want someone dead. Not in the abstract way people sometimes say it. Literally, you want a specific person with a specific name and a specific address to stop existing. Maybe it's a business partner who stole everything from you. Maybe it's a witness who is about to testify. Maybe it's a rival who has made your operation impossible to run. Maybe it's a spouse whose death is worth more than their life. You sit with this thought for 3 days, then a week, then a month, and the thought doesn't go away. It calcifies. It becomes a decision. Now you have a problem that is very different from the one you started with. You want to commit the most serious crime a human being can commit, and you have absolutely no idea how to do it without destroying yourself in the process. You can't Google it. You can't ask around openly. Every person you tell is a potential witness. Every search you make is a digital footprint. So you start quietly. You mention it sideways to someone you half trust. You don't say what you want. You say you have a situation that needs handling. You say you're looking for someone who can help with a problem that can't go through normal channels. You have just placed the first order in a market that processes thousands of transactions per year across more than 80 countries. The market is already listening. Level 2. The broker. You are the market, not a killer, not a client. You are the connection between them, the human infrastructure that makes the whole system function without any single party ever needing to know the full picture. You got into this the way most brokers do, gradually. You were already in a world where favors move like currency. Maybe it was organized crime. Maybe it was prison connections. Maybe it was simply a neighborhood where certain people knew certain people and you had the right reputation at the right moment. Your job is simple in theory and lethal in practice. A client approaches you never directly, always through a layer of introduction. They describe a problem. You assess whether the problem is real, whether the client can pay, and whether the contract is executable. You charge a fee for the introduction alone, typically 10 to 20% of the total contract value. You never touch the target. You never meet the executor. You communicate through intermediaries, burner phones, and encrypted messages that disappear after they're read. When law enforcement investigates a contract killing, they follow the chain from the scene back toward the client. You are in the middle of that chain. That makes you the most dangerous position in the network, and also, if you're careful, the most protected one. Neither the client nor the killer knows your full identity. You are a voice, a contact, a name that isn't your name. You have brokered 23 contracts in 4 years. 11 of them were completed. 4 were abandoned by the client. 8 are still pending. You don't track what happened to the targets of the completed ones. Level 3. The Novice. You need money badly enough to do something you can't undo. You're not a career criminal. You don't have training. You have a connection, someone who knows someone, and a number that seems impossible to ignore. $5,000. For one job. It will solve every problem you have right now. You are what criminologists call a dilettante, an amateur. Most contract killings are carried out by people exactly like you. Not professionals, not trained operatives, but desperate or greedy people who overestimated their ability to detach from what they were doing and underestimated how visible they would be. You surveil the target for 3 days. You pick a location. You pick a time. You execute the contract. And then you make mistakes because amateurs always make mistakes. You live in the same city as the victim. You used your own car. You told one person who told one other person. Your alibi has a gap of 40 minutes that you cannot explain. You are arrested within 6 weeks. The broker who hired you is never charged. The client who paid for the contract serves 3 years for conspiracy less than you expected, more than they expected. You get 18 years. The network notes what went wrong. It doesn't repeat the mistake. Level 4. The Journeyman. You've done this before. That's what makes you valuable, and also what makes you traceable. You have a limited background in high-risk work. You know how to source equipment discreetly. You know how to approach a situation without drawing attention. You understand the difference between a well-prepared assignment and one that's already at risk. You decline uncertain or poorly planned opportunities. That alone sets you apart from beginners. Your fee ranges from $15,000 to $50,000 per assignment, depending on the complexity of the profile, the timeline, and the overall risk. High visibility profiles cost more. Situations with protection cost more. Assignments in unfamiliar regions cost more. You also understand something most people in this field realize too late. Once an assignment is complete, you can become a concern for the person who arranged it. You know what was requested. You know the compensation. You hold sensitive information about their critical decision. Some clients arrange to neutralize that concern right after completion. You know this. So you maintain safeguards, records, dates, figures, kept in a secure location that can be released if anything happens to you. It's not foolproof. It's a protective measure. Living with that difference is part of the reality. You've successfully completed 9 assignments over 6 years. You've faced scrutiny twice. No formal consequences. You have a wife. She believes you provide private security consulting for international corporate clients. You call her using different numbers. You tell her the work carries risks. She senses the gaps in the story. She has chosen not to press for full details. Some silences are protective choices. Level 5. The professional. You are rare. That is the entire point. Most operators work within familiar territory. They know their region, their contacts, their boundaries. You function across multiple regions and borders. You have carried out assignments in 7 countries. You have never accepted work in the country where you reside. That separation is deliberate. It is carefully designed. It makes any direct connection to an event extremely difficult, because you maintain no visible ties to the location, the individual, or the requesting party. Your starting rate is $100,000. For especially complex or high protection profiles, elected officials, individuals under witness programs, heavily guarded persons, it can reach $500,000 or higher. Payment never arrives in physical currency. It moves through digital assets, through layered corporate invoicing, through transactions that appear on records as legitimate professional consulting fees. You are precise in a way that minimizes chance. You study the situation for weeks before agreeing. You analyze patterns, routines, security measures. You identify the window of greatest opportunity and lowest exposure. When executed, it appears to investigators as an unfortunate incident, a random event, or a natural occurrence. The most successful assignments never appear in headlines as intentional acts at all. You follow one principle that has kept you operating longer than most. You never reuse the same intermediary more than once. After each assignment, that channel closes. You step away and re-establish contact through entirely new pathways. Level 6. The handler. You don't carry out the assignments yourself. You coordinate those who do. You operate exclusively within structured organizations, large criminal enterprises that require regular risk management operations. Your role is to maintain a network of capable individuals at varying capability and price levels. When the organization requires an outcome, they approach you. You select the most suitable individual for the requirement. You oversee communication, financial arrangements, and post-event handling. When something goes wrong, when someone inexperienced is detained, when someone speaks to authorities, when a more experienced person leaves unintended traces, you address the fallout. Sometimes that means distancing from a compromised individual. Sometimes it means ensuring that individual is no longer able to provide information. The organization provides you with a regular retainer. You are not an independent operator. You are a coordinator. You have never personally engaged in direct action in this capacity. In any inquiry, you remain several steps removed from the actual events. You currently track 17 active individuals across 3 continents. You have removed 4 from the network. 2 are currently detained. 2 are no longer active. Both of the latter group had begun asking excessive questions about senior decision-makers. You learned from those situations. You no longer ask unnecessary questions. Level 7. The client. You are not a criminal. That is the most important thing to understand. about how this ends. You are a businessman, a politician, a spouse with a life insurance policy, and a divorce that went badly. You are the person who created the demand that built the entire system above you. Every broker, every killer, every handler exists because people like you exist, people with resources and motive, and the specific moral vacancy required to write a check for someone else's death. You are also the most likely to be caught. Not because you're careless, you hired people to be careful for you, but because the chain always has a weak link, and that link is almost always closest to the original grievance. The broker knows your problem. The intermediary heard your voice. The contract itself traces back to a motive, and motive traces back to you. When investigators find the body and ask who benefited, your name is usually in the first paragraph. You hired a professional. You paid properly. You covered your tracks. And still, 18 months later, a detective in a city you've never been to is looking at phone records and following a money trail that someone, somewhere, left by accident. You are arrested on a Tuesday morning. Your lawyer says the case is circumstantial. He is not wrong. He is also not confident. You sit in a holding cell and think about the moment you made the decision. You try to remember what it felt like to believe this was the only option. Level 8. The Reckoning. The network doesn't collapse when you're arrested. The broker finds a new client within a week. The handler reassigns the contractor roster. The professional completes 2 more contracts before the year is out. The organization absorbs the loss of one client, the way a river absorbs a stone briefly disturbed. Then, exactly as it was. What stops contract-killing networks, when anything stops them, is not individual prosecution. It is the erosion of trust that holds the chain together. Informants who decide the deal they're offered is better than the loyalty they owe. Brokers who trade up the chain to reduce their own sentence. Handlers who give up clients to avoid the liability of knowing too much. The FBI's most successful prosecutions of contract-killing networks have come through RICO, treating the network as an enterprise, rather than a series of individual crimes. When you can charge everyone in the chain simultaneously and offer reduced sentences to whoever cooperates first, the network eats itself. But RICO requires evidence. Evidence requires surveillance. Surveillance requires time. And in the time it takes to build one case, the network has already moved, renamed itself, and found new intermediaries. At least 2,700 contract killings were documented across 80 countries in a single 2-year period. Those are the ones that were identified. Contract killings that look like accidents, medical events, or random crime are never counted. The market is bigger than the numbers suggest. It is running right now. Somewhere, someone is sitting with a grievance, and a half-formed thought that they haven't yet admitted to themselves is a decision. The market is already listening. This is not a niche criminal activity reserved for mafias and cartels. It is a functioning market with supply chains, quality tiers, pricing structures, and risk management systems that operates in every country on Earth. The only thing separating a grievance from a contract is finding the right introduction. And in a world this connected, the right introduction is never as far away as you'd like to believe.